What is going on, Crisis Actors? It is episode 1036 of Pop Culture Crisis. My name is Brett, and I am here once again with my co-host. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, Crisis Actors. It's Mary. Happy Monday. Do you usually say Crisis Actors, Brett? That felt out of place.
No. So after, back over Thanksgiving when we were off air for a while, I was doing solo streams, and then there's days when you're not here. So
Someone's gotta say it.
I got in the habit of saying it as well over like the holidays, and I was not able to kick that habit once you came, once we came back and got back on a regular schedule. So now they get 2 Crisis Actors a day.
That's fine. Well, we do have a $20 super chat to start with from Shane H. Wilder. Happy Monday, Brett and Mary. If you haven't been to a funeral in a church on the 2nd floor of an event center with 2 ice rinks at a soccer field, then got hammered at a sports bar right below the church, you haven't done ish.
That's a lot.
I mean, that sounds like a pretty lit funeral. So can't say I have done that, but I'll put it on my bucket list. How about that?
It's so funny. So I guess this isn't funny. It's just a thing you say. It's like when somebody says, if you ever need anything, call, and then somebody's like, I need something. They're like, that's just something you say. It's kind of funny. So there is in the town that me and Olivia live in, there's a funeral home. I've only ever seen people there literally once. One time. Ever.
At the funeral home?
At the funeral home. And so I go by there plenty at night, which is when I assume during the week people have funerals, perhaps. I mean, perhaps this is always happening.
At night?
Well, in the evening, not night. No,
I don't think a funeral is an evening thing. It's definitely
it's a funeral home, so it's where you'd have like the wake.
Right. I would assume that takes place in the mornings.
Well, I drive by there in the morning, plenty, and I drive by there in the evening, plenty, and I never see anyone there. There's been exactly one time that I have seen somebody there. There's another funeral home, like on the other side of our town, and people are just dying to get in there. The one's always busy. Oh my gosh. It feels like.
Did you see her? Okay. Yeah.
The point is that one seems like there's something going on there all the time. This one, I don't know how they stay in business. It's got to be a front.
It's a leering center.
Yeah.
I would be suspicious that there was some sort of Somali fraud going on.
It's completely plausible.
I mean, weren't they actually accused of like defrauding something related to like funeral homes or something?
I mean, I know
don't remember what it was.
That's a grift. That definitely happens because people are vulnerable when a relative dies, and they get you to buy the $60,000 coffin they can't afford or something like that. I could have
sworn though that there was like something going on with that in Minnesota with the Somali population, but I just don't remember the details now. Maybe somebody in the chat will chime in with that. But
we got off on a tangent here early, and that's okay.
Sorry, kind of a dark note to start off the week, but anyway,
it's Monday.
We're back from the weekend.
It's Monday, so we're allowed to go off on little tangents because we got a whole week of stuff to talk about that we're going to get into today. But before we get started, as always, guys, hit the like button on this episode and subscribe to the channel. If you're new here and you have not subscribed here yet already, please and thank you. Remember to share the episodes and the segments out with your friends and your family and your loved ones, people that you like, people that you hate. It should be a completely neutral path to just share the content with everybody, and then you can argue with them in the comments section about it, which is a great way to help us out. So you should go ahead and do that. So what are we getting into today? We are going to talk about the SAVANT. Hallelujah, ladies and gentlemen. It's actually coming out. The Karens have won, and plenty of YouTubers are going to have lots of content to make once this show comes out on Apple Plus. So we will get into that. There's also seems to be some type of disagreement going down in the comment section about where this show came from, what the inspiration for it was. So we'll talk about it. We're also going to talk about Charlize Theron, who has decided to get involved in the Timothee Chalamet discussion like a month past its due date, like sour milk. And she's basically saying like, look, AI is going to replace his job, and then he'll be looking for a job as a ballet dancer. I mean, that would come for her job as well, but I guess that's not really the point.
It's actually worse than what he originally said.
It's the delusional take that you have to just pretend everything is okay, and oh, we're fine. So we'll get into what she said. We're also going to be talking about a game that Mary got into a discussion with about people online, right?
Yeah, it's called Pragmata. I'm not
Pragmata.
sure if that's how it's pronounced.
Not
but...
Pragmata, because when I heard, I would think
Oh.
Stigmata, but Pragmata.
Oh, is it Pragmata?
Pragmata.
Then?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll stick with that. Yeah, you are seeing people calling this a dad simulator game online, and it's now become sort of a subgenre. I recall the Walking Dead game would be the same, and The Last of Us would be the same genre. And people are debating about whether this is creepy that you play in the game as the companion or guardian to an android that looks like a little girl. So there's a lot of stuff to say about this. I'm getting some heat right now for my take.
Even when we came in today, I'm like, I disagree with you. We got.
I mean, that's okay,
yeah,
but
that's
I just feel like people are taking my like totally earnest take from like my actual reaction to it, and they're like getting cute in the replies and like dying on the wrong hills.
Okay.
So maybe this is a stream, long form content. This is the place where we actually get to the heart of the issue.
We will talk about it. We'll get into the whole thing. We are also somebody said wrong, but I thought it was Pragmata. If it's pronounced differently, that's what it sounded. We'll play the clip, but maybe I heard it wrong in the clip. Maybe we'll just try the clip and see what happens. So we'll talk about that. We're also talking about tattoos. This is another thing you're getting heat for.
Yeah, not quite as much, but there are definitely some tattoo havers who are pissed at me right now for saying that tattoo removal, and specifically being tattoo free, is about to be a major status signal. And I think celebrities like Pete Davidson, the most obvious example of which, are jumping on that trend the first. So we're going to get into that. Reminded me of a segment that we did last year about the rising popularity of tattoo removal services. If anyone is looking to invest in something safe right now, I know the economy is pretty crazy, you should probably invest in tattoo removal businesses.
I'm telling you right now, if you want to make YouTube videos that will get views every time, you have to make them about tattoos and weed. People love to debate tattoos. At least
if tattoos, weed, and guns.
Well,
right?
I mean, so those are just the three where your comment sections will be absolutely lit up. Like, one of my favorite things to do is to go to any of like the firearms channels that I watch, and just go read the comments and see people arguing about stuff. It really is one of my favorite things. But also, this is true of, like, if you go on X and you have, like, the mildest take about weed, you will get lit up to the high heavens by thousands of people.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. It's really easy to get people riled up about these subjects. So we're going to jump into the fray.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. We got a bunch of other stuff. If you're ready, we can just get into the fray then, as you said. Are you ready to go?
Yeah, let's go.
Actually, you know what? Before we get started, you should shout out coffee. That's what you should do, because people need
good
to drink it.
idea.
Yeah. Isn't that a good idea?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Thank you for doing that lovely segue. You guys should go to castbrew.com. Shout out to Castbrew. And specifically, my coffee flavor, Mary's Ghost Blend, is still available. It has been a while since I've shilled my flavor in a while.
Exactly.
I don't know why. It didn't really feel like it didn't feel like fresh anymore, but it is still available, even though it's not Halloween anymore. I say it's Halloween all year if you're drinking this s'mores flavored. It's a medium roast. I like light and medium roasts because it's like a milder flavor. It smells amazing. It smells like cinnamon to me, but it doesn't taste like cinnamon. It tastes more like the s'mores notes. Highly recommend. And don't buy anyone else's coffee, just mine.
They make horror movies all year round. Why can't you drink Halloween themed coffee all year round?
Yes,
all right.
And the design on the bag is what I'm most proud of.
And if I was to shill any of it, I would be shilling the cold brew, because that's the only type of coffee that I drink is cold brew coffee.
Wait, so what is that first?
The first one is the Vault Black Cold Brew, which is the full size.
Huge.
That's a full size bottle. It's. I mean, it's.
Making it look bigger than it is.
No, it's yeah. So it's a concentrate, so you mix it with water.
Yeah.
So and then also the shooters, which I actually now, because I drink so much caffeine these days, this would actually benefit me greatly to have these.
Are you actually supposed to take it like a shot?
I mean, that's what some people were saying that they do. You can mix it into just a cup. But otherwise, some people just drink it like as a shot. So
That's crazy.
Yep. So guys, go ahead and check out castbrew.com. You can pick it. And also pool water, which I still said, like, I want signature, water with bubbles. That's what I want.
Have you tried the pool water personally?
I have. It tastes like water.
Cool.
Yes.
I guess that's what it's supposed to taste like. I have not personally tried the pool water, but sure, recommend.
I'm hoping they will make sparkling water. I want sparkling water since that's the only type of water that I actually drink. So, all right. Yeah. Well, actually, no. At work, I drink regular water, but at home, I drink sparkling water. I
have heard people say, like, the Maha people are against sparkling water.
Wait, why?
I guess that they say it, like, dehydrates you.
Oh, shut the fuck up.
I don't freaking know. Like, that's what they're saying. That's
Bro,
according to the experts.
I am about to go out and just eat a whole bag of Cheetos out of spite just because they said that now.
And a crumble cookie.
And a crumble cookie just because I can. And they can't stop me. And guess what? I won't even walk 10,000 steps that day. I will go home and be sedentary just to own the Maha people.
Go off.
So people were saying, okay, so I also saw somebody say that carbonation isn't good for you, but then I went looking into that because that seemed specious at best. And from what I understand, that's like a misunderstood study that was actually more about soda and all of the other bad shit in soda that's bad for you, not just carbonation.
Right. It's like people saying that nicotine is bad for you when in reality it's cigarettes that are bad for you.
All right. Now that we've shilled everything, let's go ahead and get started. Let's talk about the SAVANT. A lot of people on both sides of the aisle are going to be very excited about this.
Yeah, definitely. Let this be a lesson. Word to the wise, Karens always get their way. I am convinced that when Apple announced the postponement of the SAVANT last year in September following Charlie Kirk's assassination, Jessica Chastain went straight to the manager. She went the Karen route and she spoke to the manager and they relented eventually. We were under the impression not long ago that the SAVANT was permanently canceled, just lacking an official announcement because it's bad for the brand. But unfortunately, Jessica Chastain got her way in the end and announced in a recent red carpet interview with our favorite Variety reporter that the show is in fact coming out. And they also revealed that it's looking at a July 2026 release date.
Just in time for our 250th anniversary, we can celebrate a brave hero who's keeping America safe.
And in case any of you are unfamiliar with the premise of the show, the series follows an undercover investigator who infiltrates hate groups online to detect and prevent domestic extremists before they act. And it's originally based on the Cosmo article that you're seeing on screen. Is it possible to stop a mass shooting before it happens? And it's technically based on a true story, but what they leave out, I'm sure, in the show is that primarily they're stopping Islamic extremists from committing acts of terror. And in this version, we can reliably guess Jessica Chastain's character is infiltrating 4chan to stop right-wing Nazis from committing acts of violence. And it's fan fiction for Karens, essentially.
You know what they need? You know what they need to do? They need to turn it into like a series, like an NCIS, and they have one division that focuses on 4chan. Then they have another division that focuses
some variety.
And then the other division focuses on Discord, vastly different groups there. And then you have another division that focuses specifically on, I guess, Middle Eastern Islamic extremist propaganda, and they can bring it all together. And then we can see just how much actually gets changed afterwards and see which ones they actually allow it to be made. And maybe that's my point. When I make the joke all the time that I miss neocon and neoliberal television in the early 2010s, or the late 2000s when it was all, Islamic extremism in the network television shows. They did their white supremacist episodes and their militia episodes as well, but it was a more even balance between the two where they covered all of them. And it felt like most of it was like they needed to cover one from every single group every season. And then as the years went on, it moved away from that because it's racist to cover it. But I miss it. I miss those days. I miss the days when we had the FBI agents take out the white supremacists and the militia in the woods, and they also took out the Islamic extremists in the Middle East somehow. It was a better time in life.
Definitely. I mean, knowing how long these shows end up in production stagnation, this show was likely written in maybe 2022, 2023, definitely prior to the last election. And that's why people assumed, especially after its postponement was announced, that one of the major antagonists in the show is some inspired version of Charlie Kirk, a right-wing platform, and that people on 4chan are inspired by his extreme polarizing rhetoric and its stochastic terrorism. Like, that's why people assumed it, and then the postponement just confirmed their suspicions.
Here's another thing, guys. I was watching an episode of the show Shooter, which was based on the Mark Wahlberg movie. It was probably based on a book, but I have no idea. That came out in like 2007. They made like a 2016 television adaptation of it starring Ryan Phillippe. And there's an episode where he like has to stop a pro Second Amendment group called the Tree of Liberty, which is just a militia, basically. And it's very funny watching them walk the line in the show because the character of Bob Lee Swagger cannot rightly be very anti-Second Amendment given the fact that it's part of the character identity. And in it, just as an aside, pro wrestler Randy Orton just randomly shows up as the leader of this militia group, likely because at that time it was on the USA Network and WWE was on USA Network at the time, so WWE wrestlers would randomly show up on there. But there is a point where there's a kid in the militia group that is like 17. He looks about 17 too. It was actually fairly good casting, and basically says he gives you all the right-wing talking points. Schools are indoctrination camps, all the things that people.
Okay, true.
No, but the point is the character who's trying to stop Bob Lee Swagger, who's trying to stop this bomb from going off, doesn't like tell him he's wrong. He basically says like, you haven't been exposed to anything else in life, so how would you know? It's a very interesting line to walk where I do believe that if it was made 5 years later, he would have just called them a bunch of white supremacists and move on. And I wish I had the quote in front of me, but it was kind of interesting how he doesn't deny the guy's critiques of government. He just says that you're basically too young to be in this position because you haven't actually had time to live a life and understand. And it was very interesting. But yeah, they do end up being a terrorist group with like a bomb and stuff like that.
Okay.
But
it's also like a lot of the unrealistic aspects of this show are probably mainly that they're not going to address the fact that the people in government entice people and entrap people.
They don't mention this. So in the article, in the Cosmo article, they basically talk about how he just ended up someplace with a van full of explosives.
Yeah, that doesn't just happen randomly, okay? And like I'm not saying that those people are not a danger to society, but that's definitely an aspect of the story that's not going to be addressed whatsoever.
Well, I mean, the FBI has gotten crap like this before, right? For like how much of it is just basically you giving them all the tools and setting them up to something they probably wouldn't have done before without you goading them into it.
It low-key reminds me of like the Vitali streams that he does, doing the predator catching gimmick, and a lot of the time it does kind of feel like a similar thing where they encounter this person and then you find out they're like severely mentally challenged and like, I don't know, they just like found this person who doesn't have a life outside of the internet and probably would have never hurt anybody, but they entrapped them with screenshots and then they just beat them up and never report them to the authorities anyway.
Yeah. Because it's for views, not because it's for views, and it's not actually to protect anybody. Which is like the most cynical. That's literally like internet culture at its most cynical.
Definitely. Let's play this video of Jessica Chastain though, because she's gloating a little bit.
I did see a comment in the chat before the show got started today that said that Jessica Chastain is an amalgamation of both you and I. Does anybody else see that? I saw that in the comments.
Why though? Like in her appearance?
Yes, in her physical
I don't
appearance.
think either of us look like Jessica Chastain. But maybe that's just me.
All right, here we go. Maybe it's because she had the glasses on in those clips in the SAVANT. Here we go.
I can say before it was like, I don't know, we're going to see it.
You did.
Hold on.
Before it was like, I don't know if we're going to see it. Now I can say we're going to see it.
I still have the interviews that I have to run with it. I feel like I have to re-interview you at this point.
I didn't have a bob back then.
No, you didn't.
Okay. That was
It's like I didn't have this fuck-ass bob back then
That
either.
was so riveting.
She even has the Karen haircut. Well, not quite. Doesn't have quite the same volume.
It's
as
not
the typical.
It doesn't got like the weird
Karen
fade
cut.
in the back.
Yeah, but that definitely counts as an FS bob
Yes.
for sure. I had a thought that, you know, it'd be a lot more interesting and less polarizing for them to produce a show about someone investigating sextortion plots, because it is relevant to current day events without being heavily politicized and coming with a lot of personal baggage.
And you don't hear as much about it, so it might be new ground to cover. In fact, it could inspire like more things to cover those types of topics. It seems like whenever we see those stories, like what, every couple of months. But you know what the other problem with that is there isn't like a face to put to it. It's usually like some anonymous group or person in Russia or something like that. Isn't it almost never Americans? It's usually
It's a lot
foreign
of
entities.
Indians as
So
well.
like outside of maybe doing like what they did with Adolescence, which is to vastly change the characteristics, it really wouldn't work in that way.
Perhaps. It's just when there's an actual movie or show that does draw awareness to an issue that unfortunately like we do need to be educated about, like sextortion plots, it is, you know, the way it's treated, the way that Sound of Freedom was treated, you know? It's a QAnon conspiracy movie. It's a movie for your QAnon uncle.
I did like this
boomer dad.
I did like this post from Elle on X, where she makes sure to point out where the vagaries were coming from discussing film. She says, be specific. It's about the ADL. Jessica Chastain is in the ADL and infiltrates online groups. This got postponed for a year after Charlie was murdered, and the ADL scrubbed every mention on their socials and site about him.
That's an interesting angle that I haven't heard before.
And then other people were pointing out that some were saying that it was about infiltrating Islamic extremist groups. Other people are saying that that is not true. I don't know how much of it is that and how much of it isn't. If we're talking early 2010s, I totally buy that. If we're talking in the 2020s, I don't know how much of it would be about that, but it's interesting nonetheless. The article itself from Cosmopolitan was focusing very much specifically on homegrown domestic terrorism, which is implicitly viewed as a right-wing phenomenon.
Yes, definitely. And
I mean implicitly by saying that they're not saying that, but they're saying it.
Given the timing of the reports on the SAVANT getting canceled, or, you know, the rumors that it was officially canceled but never announced, especially the Rolling Stone article that came out about it in February, I'm thinking Apple and Jessica Chastain had some stern conversations, maybe some strongly worded emails were sent, and they were like, fine, we'll let you have your freaking show.
I think it was going to come out either way.
Well, I question that only because at the time in February, Apple did a press conference announcing all of their upcoming films and shows that they had on the slate. And the SAVANT was not on it. Because
it wasn't new. Because wouldn't that be basically it was already probably premiered at a prior time as coming out that year. They didn't want to do it a second time. Like I imagine this was
a press event in February in Santa Monica announcing a slate of new shows, original films, and returning series for the upcoming year.
I imagine
everything
that
they had on the
before.
slate for 2026 was supposed to be listed. And the SAVANT wasn't. So I really think that in the past couple of months, they changed their minds.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I imagine, I really did imagine that it was going to come out either way. So in network television, whenever there is like an episode that too closely resembles a tragedy that happens around the time of its release, they postpone. Sometimes for an extended period of time, sometimes not so much, but they usually postpone, and then it eventually gets aired because you're going to end up losing a crap ton of money if you invest however many million. And this is a whole series, not just one episode. Like, I imagined it was always going to get burned off somewhere. It would have been funnier if they tried to sell it.
With the way that Jessica Chastain responded to it on social media, she was definitely placing the pressure on them and trying to mobilize her following to go after the company. And do so in a nimble way without breaking her own non-disparagement clauses. And it seems to have worked out for her. So
all right, let's move on. Let's talk about, I guess, what is this? Is this the modern feminism of AI? Yes.
We have entered, this is the new age of AI girl boss feminism, brought to you by Reese Witherspoon. She is very outspoken about how women specifically need to embrace and learn and familiarize themselves with AI in order to survive in the upcoming media ecosystem. And she announced this in an undisclosed ad. I'm just going to go out and say it. It's definitely an undisclosed ad on her Instagram where she's just like chatting with her fans while making a banana smoothie, so casual, no makeup. And she's like talking about her book club that she has with her other rich women friends. And they were just like chatting about AI together. And we realized that like women are the most likely to have their jobs replaced by AI. So we need to be on the front lines. And AI is not just for those nerdy guys in Silicon Valley. It's for the girlies too. So this was Reese Witherspoon's.
Here we go.
Undisclosed ad.
It's time to learn about AI. I was with 10 women at a book club yesterday, and I
an even number so she can do a 7 out of 10 thing. I don't know if I buy it, but okay.
to the 10 of them, how many of you guys use AI? And only 3 of them used AI. And then I said, how many of the 3 of you feel like you really know what you're doing or they're using it?
She's just running surveys? Like,
Apparently. Yeah.
The
This
right
totally
way.
happened.
And that was only 1 person. So if 3 out of 10 women are the only ones using AI, that means 70% of that group is not keeping up. The thing I've learned about technology is if you don't get a little bit of understanding from the very beginning, it just speeds past you. So you have to have little bits of learning just to keep up. And let's get real, our kids are all using this every single day. I think we should learn the basics together and learn some really good tools that are gonna make our everyday lives easier and better. Do you want me to share what I'm learning with you? It's time. It's time, people. I think it's time to learn about AI. I was with 10 women at a book.
Thank goodness it was an even number.
Yeah, so that totally happened. She was totally just like casually hanging out with the girlies at her book club and talking about AI. And she just organically wanted to hop on Instagram in her AirPods with her messy bun, making her morning smoothie. And she, of course, leaves it on that cliffhanger at the end. Do you want me to share what I've learned with you? And then even though she got utterly ratioed in the comments by people who hate this message, she's gonna return and say, so all of you asked me to share my AI knowledge with you. So here's my course sponsored by, you know, whatever company was paying her behind the scenes to post this, or, you know, who knows what was really going on there. But there is no way that she was not getting a paycheck for what she just posted. There's no reality where she just casually did this for no reason. And it's incredibly obvious. She also captioned it saying, the AI revolution has begun. I need to learn as much as I possibly can and share it with all of you. Also, FYI, the jobs women hold are 3 times more likely to be automated by AI, yet women are using AI at a rate 25% lower than men on average. We don't want to be left behind. So do you want to learn with me? And it's just funny that she has no idea that that implicitly admits that the jobs held disproportionately by women are made up of bookkeeping and busy work. I mean, yeah, that's what AI is capable of doing.
She doesn't get that. But okay, so here's the thing. So you're of the opinion, we were talking about it before we went on air, that you think this is a bubble that will eventually burst and most of this stuff is going away.
It's, especially when we're talking about Hollywood spokespeople. They are the loudest about AI and have the least clue what they're talking about. Reese Witherspoon is the most visible example of this, but Sandra Bullock also added her thoughts in a recent panel discussion alongside Pam Abdi. So they were reacting to a lot of these fan-made AI trailers for their new movie in which Sandra Bullock stars, Practical Magic 2. And they were like, yeah, it's kind of weird seeing them use our IP without permissions and making money off of our intellectual property with AI, but we have to embrace it. So Sandra said, it's here. We have to observe it. We have to understand it. We have to lean into it. We have to use it in a really constructive and creative way, make it our friend rather than, I mean, we have to be incredibly cautious and aware of it because there are people who will use it for evil and not good, but I do feel that there's a place for it. It's here. We just have to be friends in some dark way. And then Pam Abdi, joined the discussion. Again, we're talking about middle-aged women who, for most of their adult lives, didn't even have like social media. And now we're talking about AI with these people. And Pam Abdi.
Oh, your mic cut out again. So just, for the first time, your mic just cut out. I actually, my opinion is a little bit, I understand you're focusing mostly on what they're saying here, but I don't see anything wrong. I see something inherently wrong with an undisclosed ad, especially if it's like, this was produced by Anthropic or something like that. Sure, whatever. But this is the same discussion that's going on right now in Hollywood with the merger with Warner Brothers and Paramount, which is that the people who act are mad and they're saying this shouldn't happen, boo hoo hoo. The people who produce and put their money where their mouth is and are the ones who have to actually shepherd the projects forward, they're saying this is happening. Jerry Bruckheimer is saying this is happening. We have to figure out what we're going to do. James Cameron says this is happening. We have to figure out what we're going to do. Mark Ruffalo says we should just stop it from happening. Well, then what is the end goal to that? Is the end goal for that to say Warner Brothers should be forced to not merge with anybody and just fail until they go out of business, in which place nobody has any jobs? In this case, their approach to AI, however rudimentary it might be with what they're saying here, is just simply, it's not even like they're not even necessarily talking about the creative parts. We're not even hearing, I mean, I guess the Sandra Bullock one is a little bit on the creative side. Reese Witherspoon is basically saying, like, if you have a job that is ostensibly counting heads at work, you're going to be replaced. And
well, Pam Abdi's comment was about taking AI into storytelling specifically. She said, we have to acknowledge it. We have to understand it. And we have to look at it. We have to look at it as a tool, and on the production side as a tool. How is it going to be used to help us make movies better for filmmakers? It has to be a tool for the storytellers. It's evolving every day. It's moving very rapidly. And I just think we as a community have to, like Sandra said, acknowledge it, understand it, learn about it, and move forward. They have no idea what they're talking about, either in terms of the technology itself. They don't understand it. And they also don't understand the way that the money is moving either. And this is my actual take. And like, I might be vindicated, I might not be. In a year's time, we'll see. But there is no path to profitability for any of these companies. They're spending insane amounts of money on their AI capabilities, and there's still no path to profitability, not even close, for any of them. So I am guessing, this is just my guess. It's as good as any. I'm not an expert on tech or the economy or anything like that. But my guess is that this stuff is not even going to be available to consumers in like a year.
Yeah, but
because there's just no way to make money off of it.
Are you talking about consumers as in you or I, or consumers as in multi-billion-dollar corporations?
I mean, us.
Okay. I mean, but these people aren't talking about us. They're talking about people at the behest of massive multinational companies. Like,
yeah, that's totally different.
If we're talking about what Reese Witherspoon said, yeah. Have you ever seen those the videos like about LinkedIn and stuff like that? You have to have a ton of skill sets nowadays if you want even the most basic of jobs, right? You should have a general understanding of the equipment or the technology that is likely coming for your job.
I'm a skeptic on this. I have to say, I feel the same way about it that I felt about NFTs in like 2021.
NFT and the practical applications for AI in the job market are different than NFTs, which was speculative value.
It's just, I look back at what the conversation around AI looked like a year ago, and I look at where it's at now, and I actually haven't seen it progress as much as, and we're listening to the people that we're looking to for the expert take on AI capabilities are the people who are selling it. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but Pam Abdi's not selling it. Pam Abdi is responding to questions that perhaps she doesn't have a full understanding of, but I guarantee you she has a better understanding of how AI is practically being applied to her job. Like,
definitely doesn't sound like it.
But I mean, but they have to sell it to you in a way. You know what she doesn't say? She's like, well, we used to have a team of 100 previs artists whose job it was to do storyboarding for movies and television shows and blah, 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 blah. Instead, what she's saying is what you have to do is you have to understand that certain people are going to know how to prompt things and create your previs where it used to take 10, 15, 20 people. Disney's laying off entire like throngs of people in their visual effects department. You're being required to sign a contract now when you work for these companies that says you will allow your work as a CGI artist to be trained on AI, which is ostensibly hoping to be used to replace you down the line. Maybe it's not doing that right now.
This goes beyond just the entertainment industry. It's all industries, and I think there is a little bit of a narrative spin going on if we're listening to the executives about AI. I think that they're using AI as a cover story for layoffs that they already needed because they overhired insanely during COVID. Because they were worried during COVID, they were worried that they were going to lose a lot of their workforce because of changing attitudes about work and remote work. So a lot of these companies overhired to an insane degree during COVID. Then they really reached this point where they needed to do mass layoffs. But the best way to present that decision to the public, to maintain a narrative that is flattering to their company, is not to say that we made a mistake and now we're correcting for it and a lot of people are going to suffer and their families are not going to be provided for anymore. The best narrative for them is we're optimizing and streamlining and leveraging AI. It's a way better sounding story that they're replacing people with AI compared to we made a massive mistake by overhiring during COVID.
I don't know if I don't know if I agree. I think that the average creative would be more sympathetic to hearing that we overhired than to hearing we're replacing because of AI. I think that makes them worse to the people in their industry.
I mean, I just mean that this goes beyond just the creative industries. It's across all different industries. So maybe that's true, but we just underestimate like how much narrative matters to these companies. I wanted to read some of the responses to their comments on X. One said, remember when celebrities seemingly randomly started coming out talking about how much they loved NFTs and thought it was super valuable and the future? Another one said, you need to understand that A-list agents / managers are putting these people in rooms with reps from AI companies so that they can ink deals. They aren't living in reality. They only know the sales pitch. Take this as seriously as when they were all gung-ho about NFTs. It's not inevitable. Another one said about Reese Witherspoon that she sold a majority stake in her production company to Blackstone.
I remember
and
that. Yep.
That was for $900 million in 2021. Blackstone is currently a massive investor in AI infrastructure.
Oh, your microphone one more time. Twice in one segment. That's like the first time that's ever happened for that. Anyways, look, I don't buy necessarily that. I think the Reese Witherspoon one could very well be perhaps an unpaid advertisement, or at least something that was I guess what would the word for it be? Would be that it was encouraged highly by maybe her manager or an agent. But I do think that there's a reality here right now that jobs that at least that Reese Witherspoon was talking about are the ones that are being removed. Do you not agree with that?
Wait, sorry. Can you
do you not
that?
do you not agree that at the very least the jobs in the offices are the ones that are going to be lost to somebody who can run a job more, who can optimize their office more efficiently with AI tools, regardless of what we believe of where AI will be for public use in a year from now?
I suppose if we're to believe the projections that are being made by those selling AI, like,
No,
yeah.
I guess it's not even about believing it. Okay, it's the off chance that it could happen means that you benefit from learning every tool you can. I understand.
I'm not against that idea. I just think that she was selling something without disclosing it.
But Sandra Bullock is not selling something necessarily, unless we're talking about selling, I guess, people being okay with it.
In Sandra Bullock's case, I think that this is just a room full of people who are being questioned as if they're the experts on something they know nothing about.
I mean, it is funny to think about.
Just listening to what they say, it's like, we have to really look at it and just really understand it and acknowledge it. And
that's because they're getting asked questions that they don't.
How to touch it and smell it, and it's like, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, if they were to give better examples of what that means, you can take classes on how to better prompt, for instance, to get the results you want on stuff like that. But they're not talking about whether we're talking about tools related to bookkeeping or creative tools when it comes to previs for movies and television shows. They're not getting granular enough to sound like anything other than platitudes. I don't know if I buy that it's necessarily. It is funny that it is a weird form of feminism where they're where she gets into the idea of it being women that are going to be replaced from the job market. I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, there was a comparison between these comments and that moment in the Truman Show where his wife starts doing commercial, she starts delivering ads during their normal everyday conversations. And someone said, were they at a luncheon or something?
They usually are. There's a women's summit going on somewhere.
Reportedly, there was actually an AI luncheon for women in Hollywood. I don't know. Someone claimed there was a luncheon. My wife talked to a hairstylist that went. It was in Nashville. I know nothing about this, but that was the claim.
If you really wanted to upset all of Hollywood, you'd create your own Claude and you'd name it David Ellison, and make your own AI agent and have it speak in David Ellison's voice. That would really upset them. We have oh, go ahead.
No,
we have 20 here from Pop Culture Junkie. It says Disney overhired because they had overly rosy Disney Plus projections, which has not met internal sub targets. It's interesting in their earnings calls, they don't break it down separately and just report the Hulu subs numbers. Yes, Hulu has long since been used to hide the failures of Disney Plus because there's infinitely more goodwill for Hulu than there is for anything Disney Plus.
This is for Disney as an example, what I'm talking about when it comes to maintaining a positive narrative about the company. If they massively overhired, specifically, this was during COVID.
Well, it's because it dovetails at the same time Disney Plus was kicking off.
Disney Plus having been launched the year before, or not even the year before, it had only been a matter of months before COVID began. They massively overhired. They were too optimistic, and then they had a sudden need to implement mass layoffs. It's way more flattering for Disney as a company to put forth a narrative that they're not laying people off because they made a mistake, but because they're leveraging AI and they are, they're streamlining their processes with AI. That's
okay. Then let me
what I'm detecting there is a spin.
Okay, so then spin-wise, I will retract my previous statement and say that perhaps you are correct, because theoretically, my point was that if they were to say, we overhired, and now we have to lay people off. I believe the creatives would have been more amenable to that, but stockholders and stakeholders would definitely care more about hearing that AI is the reason for the layoff. So perhaps you're correct about that.
Yeah, I think that they're thinking about how to present things in a flattering way to investors, for sure.
All right, let's move on then. Cringe. Actually, we got 5 PCC gifted memberships from Corey Anderson. Thank you. And if you are a newly minted member of the PCC channel here with the channel membership, I did put up a video with Valiant Renegade. It's up for everybody to view now, but that's the type of content that I will be putting out for early access for all PCC channel members. That also gives you access to all our emojis. And if you have an idea of what you'd like to add, because we have space for new emojis, give me some suggestions in the comments or send me those suggestions on X, and we will get to them there. All right. What would you like to see, cringe or cute of the day?
Let's see the cute first, because the cringe, we are going to need some time to prepare for that.
Okay. All right, here is the cute of the day. I've got back-to-back from Heather Blues. It says this, it says, this is Bird. She has an attitude to match that side-eye.
I think it's been a while since we've had a horse in cute of the day.
It's a good one.
Thank you for that.
It's a very, very good-looking horse there. And then we got a cat from Heather Blues.
Aww.
Luna is our princess. She has the faintest meow and is very dainty.
I love the coloring. That's very unique.
It's a very cute cat. It has the structure of like a hairless cat in its head. A little bit. It looks like one, like its head looks like a hairless cat with hair.
That's a compliment, but you know what? Sure.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of hairless cats, personally.
All right, cringe of the day.
This is intense, guys. So just buckle up.
What is that?
Okay, I'll actually preface this.
Oh, it's from Channel 5. Okay.
So, this is a callback to the Bikini Beans incident last year, in which a man pulled up through the drive-thru without his pants on, was filmed in his indecent exposure, and promptly ended his own life.
Yes.
So that's what you're about to see, is a tribute to that.
It says, if you're listening to this right now, ladies and gentlemen, it says, on the ground at the Gooniversary.
It's that, yep, it's the Gooniversary.
Gooniversary. It's been 1 year since Nautica Malone in this very parking spot. Let's talk to some of these obviously sad mourners. What's up?
What does Goonie mean to you guys?
What does it mean to you?
Thank you, guys. Okay.
Hold on, I gotta...
Back to the Gooniversary.
Hold on, I have to double check something. I want to make sure I have it. Yes, I do for later. Hold on, let me double check and make sure that
Are we good?
Yeah, I wanted to. I was just thinking of something before we did this. All right, here we go. we're back to the Gooniversary. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, on the way here, we were listening to the radio because our phones died. It was Michael Jackson, so we were Mike Jacking it on the way up, and then we realized it was Beat It. And that's when I realized, like, the spirit of the Goonerl is really all around us.
Why would you say you're here though? What
to
are
pay
you
my
celebrating?
respects to the Goonerl.
To Nautica?
Yeah, Nautica Malone, the Goonerl himself, you know.
Are you here ironically or sincerely?
Honestly, that's a crazy question to ask in current year. Like, that actually kind of sheds light on the internet, right? Are you here ironically, or are you here?
You know, a little bit of both.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
Nautica. This is the I Can't Goon poster honoring Nautica Malone, who was, you know, unfortunately put into a situation where he had to kill himself. That video was published and spread around. You know, it led to all this happening, and that's completely unfair, and we need retribution.
You know, in the Gooniverse, you have, you know, Gooners, and he's a hero to some and maybe a villain to others, but...
What does he do?
He's a symbol of hope for Gooners.
I covered myself up today just in case.
That was gonna
I
happen.
was gonna wear my bikini, but I thought, I don't want to risk it.
You are going to be safe, but do not let the camera go off of you at any time.
What do you mean by that?
It is a level 10 goon sanctuary out there. We have some elite gooners. We have some people that are on the underground rankings coming up.
You think they're gonna goon to me?
This is like, you know, XXL every year. These are the gooner XXLs, like freshmen. These guys are up next.
I goon every day and I can't stop gooning.
No.
Fight for my right to goon. I got Channel 5 on my right and they're talking about gooning. I'm about to goon on the camera and that one and that one. I'm about to goon everywhere.
All right, you get the picture.
It reminded me of this commercial that I found on Instagram like last year for a TCL TV, and it's like the most unhinged thing where the whole song is about gooning, and I'm like,
oh yeah,
what
I
is
remember
this?
this.
I'm gonna play this for you guys if you remember this one.
Like, this is real?
This is a real. This was an ad on Instagram. That's the TCL
crazy.
UK account. Just think about the old, like, not even boomers, Gen Xers in the office who were like coming up with this stuff.
Yeah, one of them got advice from like a nephew of theirs. And it's all about gooning now, Uncle.
I love that the guy in the ad has to act completely absurd, and he's probably just like, because it's like the guy who has to pose in the ad for the adult diapers. He has to be okay with that. All right. I don't know what gooning has to do with buying a 98-inch TCL TV, but with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. We've got a bunch of stuff to talk about today.
The Timothee Chalamet hate train shows no signs of stopping. I feel like I am detached from reality because it really was only last month that the entire industry turned against Timothee Chalamet for his comments, dismissing the importance of ballet and opera in the Big 26. And now we're well into April, and Charlize Theron suddenly decided it was time to respond to those comments. But since it's been so long in internet years, we should remind you of what he originally said. This is the clip.
Do you know, before we even play, you know what it reminds me of? It's kind of like the game of telephone that happened with Sydney Sweeney's jeans ad.
Oh, yeah.
Where by the time it was done, she was basically Sig Heiling, even though that's not what happened in the ad.
Right.
Let's listen to what he said.
And I don't want to be working in ballet or opera or, you know, things where it's like, hey, keep this thing alive, even though no one cares about this anymore. All respect to the ballet and opera people out there. I just lost 14 cents in viewership. But, damn, I just took shots for no reason.
That's not a shot. I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
Okay.
So even Matthew McConaughey saw his point in the moment and said, you're not taking shots at them. I see what you're trying to say.
He was definitely nervous laughing. He was nervous laughing. He's still part of the club, and he understands that in Hollywood you're not allowed to not like stuff. You can't, like, it's like I always
very personally.
It's like I always say about it's the reason why certain actors and directors are allowed to critique and certain ones aren't. But that's just the way. Most of them are not allowed to pretend like they don't they have to pretend like they like everything.
I mean, I get why, you know, movie studios have to pretend that all of their projects are successes.
Quentin Tarantino.
What I don't understand is
Quentin Tarantino's allowed to critique things because he's Quentin Tarantino and it's part of his shtick.
Yeah,
but everybody
you earn
else
that right to be the ranting, raving hobo of your industry if you're Quentin Tarantino. But for the rest of them, that rule certainly does not apply. But yeah, I mean, of course, you know, Disney has to pretend that all of their movies make money. But I don't understand why an actor has to pretend that ballet and opera are still booming in popularity in 2026 when that is just objectively not the reality. And Charlize Theron was asked to respond to his comments in a recent interview with the New York Times. I believe it was the same interviewer who was trying to goad Jennifer Lawrence into a comment about Trump the other month. And it worked on Charlize Theron this time. She said, she started off with more a comment about dance, which was required of her in a past role. She said, dance is probably one of the hardest things I ever did. Dancers are superheroes, what they put their bodies through. And the interviewer alluded to Chalamet's comments about ballet and opera, to which she replied, "I hope I run into him one day. That was a very reckless comment on an art form, two art forms that we need to lift up constantly, because yes, they do have a hard time. But in 10 years, AI is going to be able to do Timothee's job, but it will not be able to replace a person on a stage dancing live, and we shouldn't shit on other art forms. Dance taught me discipline, structure, hard work. It taught me to be tough. It's borderline abusive. There were several times that I had blood infections from blisters that never healed, and you don't get a day off. I'm literally talking about bleeding through your shoes, and that's something that you have to practice every single day. The mindset of just, you don't give up. There's no other option. You keep going. And it's really, again, missing the point almost intentionally of what
No, it's
Timothy
absolutely. So what it is, she had something she wanted to say, and she just fitted into what it was that she wanted to talk about, which was how difficult her past work has been. It didn't matter what he actually said, just in the same way it didn't matter what Sydney Sweeney actually said in her stupid jeans ad. All that mattered is they had something they wanted to say so that they could say it. And if I was to give it like a fair shake and be like, okay, she misunderstood what he said, when really I don't even think that's what it is, it's far more reckless to pretend like nothing is wrong and to just, shout from the high heavens how great everything is when clearly it isn't. Because then you fail to see where you can make changes. Now, that's a foregone conclusion for dance and for theater and for ballet and those things. They've moved on to becoming niche forms of entertainment, right? Hollywood is trending that direction with movies and television. But you don't have to pretend to love it now. You can talk about what needs to be fixed, because heaven forbid if you actually make some changes and fix some of the things that need to be fixed. That's what you need to do. It's far more egregious to focus on or to pretend like everything's right when it's not.
Over this past weekend, I did attend an opera for the second time in my entire life. And didn't enjoy this one as much as the first that I attended, but that's not really relevant. I was just scanning the room to see how many empty seats there were. And it was pretty packed. There were definitely some empty seats that I spotted here and there, but most of them were filled. And I think that's just because, maybe this goes for other cities as well. Nashville is just an exception to the rule in every way. Every time I go to a movie theater here, you can barely even find a parking spot. That doesn't mean that movie theaters are doing well. It's just an exception to what's going on in the rest of the country, I'm guessing. But again, like I said before, the majority of the crowd is noticeably, I would say on the left side of the aisle, and whatever flavor of that depends on the generation they belong to. So there were the boomer default libs, and on the younger side, some, millennial leftists attending. But overall, Timothy was right that these are not popular art forms anymore. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. And all he was saying was a word of caution to people in his own industry, in the film industry, that he doesn't want the same thing to happen to cinema.
So she doesn't mention theater. She mentions dance, and she mentioned dance, and what was the other one that she mentioned? Opera. But theater, Hollywood, movies are what happened to make theater obsolete or more of a niche piece of entertainment. AI will just come for Hollywood movies the way that the way that Hollywood came for theaters, right? So everybody's going to end up down the pecking order eventually. You could say that that's already happening. Far less people are going to see Marty Supreme than watching Brain Rot online.
Well, it's weird that she's using that as a way to gloat over Timothée Chalamet, because she is an actor as well.
Yeah,
and
her job is...
If she actually believes that AI is going to replace Timothée Chalamet, she definitely will get replaced sooner than he will. And yet seems to be using that as a bludgeon against him. And it's worse than anything that he said.
All he did was basically have tacit hope for his industry and wanting to see it succeed.
Yeah, it's just... It was like a brain virus. It was Timothée Chalamet derangement syndrome.
You have to like everything.
And I think, much like Sydney Sweeney, there was already some hate simmering against him for quite a while that just reached its boiling point, and finally they had an excuse to express it.
Yep.
They were already, in my opinion, sick of Timothée Chalamet's exposure by the time that he made these comments that, gave them a permission slip to go after him. And it was everybody. Like, the list is just never ending. And he was completely someone responded to this and said Hollywood A-listers are going harder on Timothée Chalamet over this ballet opera shit than they did on Harvey Weinstein. And like, maybe that's a bit of an over-exaggeration, but it's not that far off. It's actually wild.
It's also very
how they
safe.
reacted to
It's
him.
safe discourse to have. It satisfies everybody's need to be angry about something without making it about anything truly controversial, which is why I liked it at
Everyone an
first.
excuse to spin their wheels and throw in their two cents about this and feel like an intellectual. But the way that she phrased it is almost like when Kelly Osbourne was on The View and she was trying to own Donald Trump, and she was like, well, if you deport all the illegal immigrants, then who's going to clean your toilets, Donald Trump? In the sense that, like, it was just not gonna go over well, no matter what. And another response to this said the Dune trailer is out, so we don't give an F anymore. It's only other actors who are still mad at him. He's still in the good graces of the public, if I had to guess. But she basically, without realizing it, because she's kind of dull, agreed with Timothée Chalamet's original sentiment that he was expressing.
I mean, it's just, I take umbrage with calling it reckless. It's like she's acting like if he hadn't said it, suddenly he made it true. It's literally magical thinking. Like, ballet was actually fine beforehand.
Yeah,
but
if we all just deny reality
existence.
enough,
Yeah.
if we just keep pretending that ballet and opera are relevant to the general population, it will eventually be true.
Some dude who was gonna go see Dune didn't know he wanted to go see a ballet until he watched Dune, but he can't now because Timothée Chalamet said he doesn't like it, or that's what she's insinuating that he said, like somehow that he doesn't like it, when that's obviously not what he said because his mom was a ballet performer.
They're acting like also people in conversation don't make sweeping generalizations, and they have enough faith in the person listening to them in the audience to interpret it the way that it was intended. So like he said, nobody cares about it anymore. He didn't actually mean there are 0 people in the world who care about ballet or opera.
Well, I mean, this is just that same IQ argument that happens every time. It says, I know somebody who, it's why it's kind of why, like, I understand that in the world of debate, anecdotal evidence doesn't really hold up. It's not important. But if you want to connect with actual people, anecdotal evidence is pretty much how most people base their life on, which is why when you make a general sweeping allegation that says like, actors are all stuck up and whiny. Actually, I'm really good friends with an actor and they're like the most down to earth. That's the point. People exist in a world where they use anecdotal evidence to make sense of the world. You know what else? This feels like the movie version, the elitist version of the Josh Hutcherson thing that I was seeing earlier, where he basically got like death threats for being like, I'm not a Swiftie. I think it was him.
Oh yeah, that was insane. He was like, all he said is that he's just not a fan of her music, and her fans came after him and they were accusing him of like hating Taylor Swift as a person because he's short, and they were like making fun of his height and stuff. It was wild.
Like that's what this feels like. That's the fan version of this, which is the Hollywood elitist version of this. It's the most annoying thing in the world, and I'm gonna be honest. It annoys me the most because it's always people who the example of people that actually probably do get along is like Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart, and everybody has to be kitschy and be like, oh, look at them, unlikely friends. Right? Everybody has to be buddies and like everything. Like every celebrity who goes to like a Taylor Swift show, right? I want one of them to go there and be like, you know what? Fuck her. I don't like her music, okay? Like, it's okay to not like stuff. It's fine.
I wish that people could come around to that.
But my other point is like it's kind of also in the same realm as the Andy Weir stuff, which is like if you're an insider, if you're part of the in group, you kind of have to pretend like you like everything. You can issue critique in private. That's the professional thing to do. But the second you make it public, it's a faux pas. And in a way, I said for Andy Weir, I was like, look, he should understand that if he wants to continue to work in the industry, there are going to be expectations professionally that you don't, insult somebody. Even if everybody knows that Kurtzman's Star Trek is garbage, that's really not, it's not expected professionally that you state that. Timothée Chalamet is a little bit adjacent to that because he's not worrying about getting a job in ballet because he's not in ballet. But the point is you don't critique other professionals in public. You're supposed to do it in private.
Well, in conclusion, I did eat breakfast this morning. I do hate waffles because I like pancakes. And ballet and opera are still relevant.
And my love of apples means that oranges should be illegal.
And I cannot rotate an apple in my mind. I think that's what we've learned today.
All right, let's move on. We got more stuff to get into. Let's talk about you just angered everybody with this one. That's okay.
Yeah. I had a hot take earlier today on X, but let's get into it here. I think we can have a better discussion away from X about this. So a Japanese video game studio called Capcom just published a new title over the weekend, which is called Pragmata. I still don't know how to pronounce it correctly.
You'd never heard of Capcom before?
I have heard of Capcom.
Okay.
Yes. I'm just saying that in case someone else hasn't.
Oh, okay.
Set on a lunar research station, the game follows spacefarer Hugh and android Diana as they work together to fight a hostile AI known as Edis. I don't know how to pronounce that either. That is controlling the station and to return to Earth. So this came out over the weekend, and now it's become a massive debate online about whether this game is creepy or perhaps even predatory toward the child character Diana, who, by the way, in case that wasn't clear, is merely an android that appears to be a child, a human child in the game. So you play as Hugh, and you are basically the protector or guardian of this character, Diana. And people are debating about the character design for this. It's a little girl, but also not because it's a robot. And they have this highly stylized version of it, too, for both Hugh and Diana. People are saying that they made Diana too adult-like in her facial features. There is definitely some merit to that, in my opinion. You can see that there is like eyeliner on her eyes. She has like a huge volume of hair, which I wouldn't say is characteristic of children in real life, but again, maybe it's not meant to be realistic. I don't think that it's sexualizing the character personally. A lot of people think that because they are seeing some very real participation from actual creeps online. In this conversation, a lot of people are making jokes, maybe they're partly serious, about modding the game to sexualize Diana, which I think is disgusting, obviously. And there is definitely, I haven't seen it myself, but people have said they have seen some sexualized, explicit illustrations of this character already making the rounds on Reddit and other forums that have been banned, which again is really gross. But I guess that's just going to happen no matter what, because there are creeps everywhere online and they're going to do what they're going to do. But as far as the game studio is concerned, there's now a theory that this game is a subtle ploy to increase the birth rates in both Japan and in the West by encouraging the person playing to activate their paternal instincts. One response to this game said that it is, what did they say? Let me read this in their words.
Okay.
It is secretly Japan's clever plan to fight their birth rate crisis. Another one said it's a Japanese ploy to bring out the built-in dad instinct of male gamers and increase birth rates worldwide. So that's why some people are calling it a dad simulator game. That's not how it's being marketed, but it would fit into the same genre as the Last of Us games or the Walking Dead game in that way, where you're the guardian or the caregiver of this young female character. If the argument is that the cuteness of Diana as a character is going to increase birth rates, I think that's like obviously not true. That's not going to happen. But they're, circulating these clips of especially female streamers playing this game, and they're brought to tears by the cutscenes of Diana like drawing a picture of her and Hugh in like a family setting. And they're like, this is going to change everything. People are going to have families because they played this game. And,
one of the issues here, and I see somebody mentioned it.
Not holding up.
So one of the things that gets mentioned here, and I agree, is that streamers will absolutely like just overdo it for the camera. It's why reaction channels. It's why Eric Butts will be a millionaire his whole life, because he can overact for Star Wars content. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's actually the rare example of somebody who actually feels that way. But in general, like, there is a percentage of people who do reaction content where it's like, whoa, and, it's like Frank Castle comes back to Marvel for the 50th time with John Byrne. Like, there's an aspect of it being played up here, perhaps.
I just want to address this because I don't think it's totally unreasonable for people to get creepy vibes. Not because it's sexual in any way, but because this is a game that's primarily being marketed and sold to men who don't have children. And
what does that
this is my
mean?
hot take, actually. I'll just read it so we don't have to allude to it all the time. So I said, childless men do not have paternal instincts the way that childless women have maternal instincts. We observe this even in the way little girls play versus little boys. So I'm referring to little girls displaying maternal instincts in the way they play with baby dolls. Even from birth, you can detect that female babies make more eye contact than male babies. It's just ingrained in us biologically that, women are caregivers. They are the nurturers. Men first experience, this is continuing my post, men first experience paternal instincts once they have their own children. And typically those paternal instincts are only ever felt for their own children and no one else's. Contrast that, I guess, with, liberal moms on Facebook crying about children on the other side of the planet. Men are not nurturers. Men don't gush over cute kids in public. Men don't have baby fever. If a man wants to possess a child for any reason other than it being a product of his own lineage, he is likely a predator. Here I perhaps put too much, labor on the audience to interpret what I meant. I was inferring cases where, single men or gay men pursue adopting or buying a child via surrogacy without a mother involved in the process. And I do think that that's predatory, and it's predatory in the worst cases, of course, but in most cases just terrible for the child, because a man can never provide for a child what even an adoptive mom can,
but
because their brains are literally just not wired to be nurturing.
Okay, so
and then I said you'd be taking the feminist / radical gender abolitionist position to protest the above points. This should explain why a dad simulator game marketed to mostly childless men gives people the creeps.
But I feel like so I guess I feel like there's a little bit of an issue here where you're talking about nurturing, but men aren't leaning into the nurturing for something like this. Maybe in this scene, but the point is protection, not nurturing, which isn't something inherent to men only after they have kids. There's a reason why brothers are fiercely protective of their sisters, or why I guess the example that I always think of is like there's a reason why every dude on planet Earth thinks that if they were on a plane with a terrorist, that they would be the one to stop it, to protect the women and the children there, and they don't have to be their own children. I feel like you are having two different discussions with the people in the comments there. And I do believe that men, maybe not at the same rate as women, eventually do come to feel a certain lack if they don't have kids and family. There's like a community note there. I can't rank it. I don't know how accurate it is, so I'm not going to reference it. I don't have the statistics on that, but men do yearn for families to have kids, which is a little bit different, given what the discussion you were having there with people.
I didn't even see the community note.
It says, research shows childless men experience broodiness and desire for fatherhood nearly as often as childless women, 59% versus 63%. And men included, non-parents exhibit innate caregiving and protective responses to infants. So I think that the thing is, you were talking about nurturing. Nurturing is kind of in the realm of protection, but not necessarily the same thing. Men are fiercely instinctual towards the protection because we have to be biologically programmed to do it to continue the human race.
Yeah, that's a valid point, and you're right that it draw to protect the vulnerable is intrinsic to masculinity and men's capacity for fatherhood.
That's what I believe. What this is resonating with men is not maybe the aspect here is like he's like, I'm gonna give her a name, which I suppose leans into the nurture side of things, but it's directly connected to what men would feel, which is the ability to connect with and then protect someone in a dire situation, right? So if we, like, one of the examples that was getting brought up, if I was looking into this, was like how step parents are different from regular parents, right? But that's not the same thing as somebody being thrust into an extremely dangerous situation where terrorists or robots are coming after you, and then you need to protect those younger and weaker than you. And I do believe that is innate to men, and that is what is resonating with men in this game.
Yeah. I guess I was just trying to draw the distinction between how men and women respond to the vulnerability of children. I mean, babies being the most helpless human beings on the planet. And it's my perspective that men do not have the capacity to feel for children the way that women do. And I don't know if I've found a better way to articulate it than women are maternal in a more noticeable way than men are naturally paternal.
I guess, like, so one of the things I find most interesting is, like, have you ever seen those videos where it's like when mom's home alone with the children versus dad, and the dad, they're always doing something dangerous when they're home alone with the dad? Okay, like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not, like, maybe it's because I've done risky things skating for 25 years, but when I see a kid running faster than their legs can carry them, my instinct is to stop them from falling. Like, I'm not like, well, that's how you learn not to run too fast. My instinct is to stop them before they fall. And some might even tell you that's the wrong instinct, because the mother's instinct should be to stop them before they fall. The father's instinct should be like, they need to, sometimes they're going to need to take a tumble if they're going to learn to help themselves. I don't know if that's right, but I know that my instinct is to stop them.
Since you brought up the aspect of, like, step parents earlier, it is true that kids are far more likely to get abused by a step parent than a parent. And that is even more of a stark contrast when you look at stepfathers versus stepmothers. That is true. I mean, stepmothers are more likely to enter into a family that is not biologically theirs and be able to be competent caregivers to children that are not theirs. And that's what I'm trying to say, is that women are nurturers. And then I feel like people really didn't even try to respond to me in earnest, and now they're dying on this hill that, like, men are actually better at nurturing children than women, and that's just not true.
We've got a couple of 20s here. I'm gonna read them quick. Sorry about that, Shane. It says I just have a psych minor, so what the f do I know? But there's a difference between male innate protector instinct and paternal instinct. Science shows that men's brains rewire during pregnancy as they develop paternal instincts.
Yeah, there is definitely something distinct between a fatherly role and just the masculine protector role.
I think one of the other reasons for step parents is also like historically men are the ones whose job it is to like punish and to, you know, make sure the kids don't act out and enact punishment to kids, and that's not something you can really do. You don't, like, if you're a stepdad, you don't have that same like authority over the child.
Well, it's also just because on a primal level, if we're being real, like the stepfather has no genetic incentive to, you know, actually protect those children. Not saying it never happens, but it's not natural that comes to them.
Another 20 from Shane says protector instinct is what makes us want to protect women or even do things like jump blindly into the fray when we see a friend getting jumped. You need it to fully develop a paternal instinct, but they aren't the same. Again, I think that so my point was, when I was reading your post earlier, I felt like everybody was kind of having a different discussion. Because though I did disagree with aspects of what you had said up here, it felt like you said, it devolved into a whole other discussion entirely.
Yeah, we've reached reductio ad absurdum, where people are now in my replies saying that they would rather hire a male babysitter than a female babysitter. And I'm just like, okay, are we even like having a real conversation anymore?
The way things are going with the female teachers at schools these days, I don't even know how far off that's going to be in the next 5 years, given the stories that have been coming out about that stuff.
But we could easily spin that around and say most pedophiles are men.
No, I'm saying that like it's more just like it's shocking to people now that it's turned on its foot, the way things are going that direction. But you're right. That was I think I pointed out to you earlier that I think it was a Jeff Dye bit where he's talking about equality. He goes, men and women. He says it's stupid to think that men and women are equal equals the same. He actually got that part wrong, but that's not the point. He goes, when you came here tonight and you hired a babysitter, you hired a female one, not because you hate men, but because you're not dumb.
Yeah, that's all I was trying to say, really, is that, you know, children should be in the care of women, generally speaking, because they're the nurturers. And it's okay that that's what women excel at and that that's their strong suit and that it's not one that belongs to men. And we're different and not equal in every respect.
I guess it was just hard for people to see that because they're looking at game footage. Like, it was also quoted with game footage where they're taking you to make a one-to-one comparison of what's going on in this game when that really wasn't the point that you were making.
Okay, and this is something that I was saying off air before we started the show, and I'm gonna try to reword it now. I don't like that people are going to play this game and think, oh, this game is reflecting back at me what a good person I am. Like, I think that that's a ridiculous way to like interact with any sort of media. Oh, like this movie and how it's making me feel is reflecting back at me like how empathetic I am. This game is showing me like, you know, how naturally virtuous and heroic I am. It's a simulation. It's not real life. I don't like that people are using this as a way to virtue signal, essentially. I think maybe that point is not going to be received the way I intend it, but I tried my best.
I think it's sort of at the intersection of the fact that people don't feel like they get a lot of entertainment that speaks to good values these days. So they're kind of enamored with it when it does happen, which we went and saw... What was the Shelter this year? And the whole movie was Jason Statham protecting this young girl who, I forget, it was like his brother's daughter, who it wasn't his daughter, it was like his brother's daughter or something like that. But basically they were running from like an all-powerful government-controlled AI, And he's kind of, he's Jason Statham. He's gruff and he's British, and the kid did a very good job in the movie of kind of bringing out a more paternal instinct in him as the movie came out. And you don't see a lot of that type of storytelling these days. So when they do get it, people get excited.
I did see one take that I think maybe we can all unite on. So shout out to this person on X who said, "Relax. It's so effing cringe. One side turning this into some bullshit pedophile narrative, the other one making it about fatherhood. It's a fucking game. I only care about the gameplay and hope the game can convince me to care about the story."
There you go.
Thank you.
I mean,
finally someone with some sense.
It's the internet where you have to have discourse. So,
like, oh my gosh. It's like half the people are talking about how this is like basically CP, and then the other half are talking about how this is about to, change the global birth rates. And I'm like, aren't we talking about a video game? Yeah, I just felt like that was kind of like lost in the sauce. Maybe I still haven't made my perspective clear, but I tried, guys. I really did.
All right, let's move on. We've got more stuff to get into. We thought people were mad about the last one.
Oh, yeah. This is another spicy topic.
Yes, it is.
I will call back to a segment that we covered on the show last year about the soaring popularity of tattoo removal. And in that article in GQ, I encourage you to go read it in full. They were interviewing people who work in tattoo removal, also tattoo artists who are having their work erased in increasing numbers, and a lot of the millennials who are rethinking the tattoos that they got during their rebellious youthful days, and the reasons why they are deciding to have bare skin again. And one of the examples listed in that article was Pete Davidson. He's probably the most prominent celebrity example of this. He has spent now over $200,000 on tattoo removal, and it looks to be working. He still has some visible patches of ink here and there, but so far he has removed all of the tattoos from his arms, and it's been an incredibly painful process. He's talked about it some, and also incredibly expensive. He encouraged people to invest in the tattoo removal business, actually, if they're looking to make their money back. And he talked about how he lost out on a lot of acting opportunities because of his tattoos. It's too distinctive to play a number of roles unless you want to spend hours in a makeup chair covering them up.
They can do that, but that doesn't always work.
He said it's terrible. They burn off your skin and then you've got to do it 10 more times. I think if you can invest in any business, you should invest in the tattoo removal business.
Yeah, you can see like faded, like you can see on his arm, there's like faded imagery still there.
Yeah, but I'm guessing that just means it's still a work in progress. He's wrong, by the way, that they burn off your skin. They only burn off hair follicles, and that's why when people smell what they think is burning flesh, they make that assumption. It's actually just the smell of your hair follicles burning. It's burning hair, but it does not burn your skin. And part of that GQ article was highlighting the fact that tattoo removal technology has advanced very rapidly in recent years. And as that has gone on, the demand for it has increased and it's become more and more accessible to people. And private equity is pouring millions of dollars into these private businesses that are offering it, whereas before you had to go to a doctor to get this done. There's one called Removery that got a major cash injection last year. And they had an investor party where one of their party favors was stick and pokes, which I thought was a funny little ironic detail there. But there's actually like a Removery location not that far away from where I live here in Nashville. And this is becoming more and more popular. And one of the main reasons, which I think is obvious to everyone, is that it's no longer rebellious to have tattoos. I think it's like a third of the population has tattoos now. It's no longer really something that bars you from getting most jobs. We don't have the same conservative social norms that once made it an act of rebellion to get tattoos.
Face tattoo might keep you off the job block for a while, but depends on the...
Yeah, face tattoo is like a little more extreme,
here's a funny example. Everybody hates when I draw comparisons back to television shows, but if you want to know how long ago this already became a passé topic, there was like an episode in season 1 of NCIS LA, which was like 2009, where like the dude who's like the profiler is analyzing somebody with tattoos. They're like, could be a sign of rebellion or it could be conformity. So we learned nothing. Could be either.
Well, I will say, I do feel like I am sort of rebelling by not having them, because every time I look at someone who's like in their 20s in public, they have tattoos. And usually it's like the patchwork kind of tattoos where it's just kind of a mess, like collage of like basically bumper sticker logos. And you probably see that on Zoomers for the most part because it's cheaper than getting large pieces that require multiple appointments.
All my friends that had like a ton of tattoos, because we were like we knew a dude who owned a tattoo parlor, so they were like serious about it, and they all had like pre-planned designs that had meaning for everything from both arms and everything, like you know, extremely in-depth stuff. It wasn't like I woke up on a Saturday morning and thought, you know what would be good, I'm gonna go get this tattoo. No, they planned, because it cost a fortune, so you had to plan it out ahead of time and then basically fund it over a period of time.
Yeah, well, Zoomers are, according to surveys, the quickest to regret their tattoos, but not as likely to remove them because they don't have as much money to spend on removal services. So that means millennials are the biggest market for tattoo removal.
You're telling me that
especially as they're moving into this new stage of their lives. They're in their 40s. They're buying homes. They have kids. They want to be a good example. They want to be responsible.
There's nothing for like, nothing is relevant enough for long enough for Gen Z to get a tattoo. What am I supposed to get, a skibbity gooner tattoo? And then it's like, nobody has heard the term in 6 months after it was relevant for 3 months. Right?
Yeah.
The guy was like, in that stupid TCL video, it's like Alpha Sigma Skibbity. And nobody's cared about that in 6 months, if not longer.
No, yeah.
Not relevant, doesn't matter. There is no monoculture that sticks for long enough to make tattoos relevant. So the best you can do is familial, is maybe something tied to your family or your lineage. But even that, like, nobody's doing it.
So on X, I quote tweeted this headline about Pete Davidson with his tattoo-less arms, saying having 0 tattoos is going to become a coveted status signal sooner than we realize. That is my genuine opinion. And a lot of people took issue with me saying this. I just want to be clear. I didn't mean that everyone is going to copy Pete Davidson because Pete Davidson is such a role model for society. That's not what I mean. What I did mean to say is that him joining this trend, which is already underway and has been for a while, is a sign of what's to come. And when rich, famous celebrities do something with their aesthetic or their bodies, their fashion, it's definitely because they are in a place where they're anti-fragile. So it used to be that celebrities had the most tattoos because they could get away with it being in their industry. It's not as risky. But now we're swinging back to a point where in their space, in the creative world, it's no longer interesting or unique to look like an Etch-a-Sketch, and they're thinking about giving themselves a shake.
Yeah.
So it used to be something that you could only go buck wild with tattoos if you were rich and famous already. Now that it's become totally socially acceptable and accessible to people at all levels of society, everyone can do it. Now the rich and famous have to differentiate themselves in a new way, which is going to be, in my opinion, a movement against tattoos, whether it means never getting them in the first place or removing the ones you already have. Or maybe being more selective about them. Can you show the before photo of Pete Davidson if you have that pulled up? Because at the very least, what we could collectively agree on is, You gotta be more selective with what you put on your body forever. This is just a mess. Like, it just doesn't look like he put much thought into any of this.
It looks
he has
like
like a Snapchat logo on his torso.
It looks like a low rent bar bathroom.
It's horrible. Yeah, so maybe we could at least all agree on like getting better tattoos if we get them at all. He also has a portrait of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. He has another one of Hillary Clinton, which he claims is not going to get removed because Hillary loves it. He's like best friends with Hillary Clinton, apparently. They have each other on speed dial.
That's worse than Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart.
He's gotten multiple tattoos in tribute to now ex-girlfriends, and he's a father and in a relationship now, so I don't think that goes over well. He's probably going to get those removed. Hillary stays, the rest of it goes.
Yeah.
And I think this is a good thing, not only for the way that we look, but also for health reasons. People don't really put much thought into this, but when you get a tattoo, your body, it doesn't stay where you put it. The ink does get metabolized in your body. And it has been linked, I don't know how strongly, it has been linked to a higher risk for certain cancers as well. That's something that people don't really consider when they're impulsively, getting a pizza slice tattooed on their leg. Just something to think about, for the future.
You could make the argument that if somebody has disjointed, poorly done, not even in the sense of like poorly done art, but poorly organized tattoos, that it says something about your ability to think ahead. Whereas somebody who, like I mentioned earlier, they thought ahead, they had a plan, and it was done well, might say something more about their ability to think about the future and going forward, and their ability to think beyond just instant gratification and one step ahead.
Yeah.
So it's not even about necessarily getting rid of tattoos entirely, but about approaching it with more discernment.
Right. Predictably, because this was on X, it did turn into a gender discourse. And one person said that this is only going to be the case for women, that tattoos are going to go out of fashion for women, but not men, because tattoos are considered, according to this person, universally attractive on men. I disagree with that.
That's funny.
I actually think women are relatively indifferent to tattoos, and there are more men who feel strongly about it one way or the other on women.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There are men who strongly prefer tattoos on women, but there are also a lot of men who strongly dislike tattoos on women. I think they feel more strongly about it on women in general.
Yeah. I mean, I think the point they're making there is like, for men, I guess it's just more, I guess that person isn't making that point, but the point is more like there's less skin in the game, for lack of a better term, for the men with tattoos, whereas for the women, it seems to be relevant to both sides of the discussion. Either you really like them on women, so therefore it's a huge part of the discussion, or you hate them on women, and therefore it's just as big of a part of the discussion.
Overall, I do think that the coolness factor of tattoos is well beyond its expiration date, and we're going to start seeing that trend shift, as well as tattoo removal becoming more accessible to the public, more affordable as well. The same way, maybe you started seeing a lot of celebrities using Ozempic. Now it's 1 in 8 Americans using some GLP-1 drug, or Ozempic or otherwise. This is going to wash over the public, the general population, as time goes on.
All right, let's go to Superchats.
All right. Katie said, I read on X that Pink endorsed Planned Parenthood, even though she is a mother. WTF, I loved her music as a teen. Well, that doesn't surprise me whatsoever, but you can still love her music. Don't let that take her music away from you.
I just saw that she hosted the Tony Awards, and I was like, but why though?
Hold please. What relevance does that have to her?
I have no idea.
Thank you, guys.
It was basically, it was like, at least from the headline that I saw, was basically from like a theater person or and they were basically like, it's a bad sign that Pink is hosting the the Tonys.
Why? Is that a recession indicator?
I guess it's just like, look, we're doing anything to draw attention to our cause, even if it means hiring somebody that's never worked in the space.
Nobody actually cares that much about Pink. She's one of those artists that will reliably sell out tours, but
how?
Doesn't have fans.
Like, no, was that me and you that were having that discussion? Like,
yeah.
It's like, you know, like, I have a cousin that's always going to concerts. I guarantee you she's been to a Pink concert probably, but that's the audience. It's not you nor I nor anybody
like,
we know.
Just people who like concerts.
Or or people who like, you know, Pink would have been a big part of like their younger years, I guess. So they're still listening. You know, I mean, I would never go to a Pink concert, but that's just me.
I want to see her flying through the air, like on her invisible.
There is no song in Pink's catalog that justifies this.
I want to see her flying. Burned Oil said, Mary goes to random funerals just to cry. LOL. I'll be like in the back of the funeral, like crying, and someone's like, "How did you know him?" I'm like, I just have a lot of feelings.
Yeah. One of the comments on the Reese Witherspoon thing said that women aren't using AI because they're more empathetic, and I was like, "Look, if you don't want to learn, just say so, okay?"
I think women aren't using AI because they don't care about like techie stuff. Like women don't customize their PCs as much as men do. Like, does that mean they're more empathetic? Is that what we're gonna go with now?
So there has been a environmental argument tied to and job loss tied to the discussion about AI. So it doesn't preclude the discussion. It does involve there, because that's two of the big arguments that people make. One, they took our gerbs, and two, you know, they're using up all the water in all the world, and everything's going to fall apart, and Al Gore is going to actually have to sell his beachfront property, not because of climate change, but actually because of AI.
Shane H. Wilder said, that wasn't a dark note after the funeral. My 3 sheets to the wind were 3 sheets to the wind, so I guess I was 9 sheets to the wind.
That's a lot of sheets.
Wait, what does any of that mean?
I have no idea. I'm sure I'm missing a
I'm
reference
totally
there.
lost. Sorry. High Voltage 75 said it's the return of the hat.
The hat reliably shows up on days where I'm going to get my hair cut later.
Yeah. It's the cyclical thing. Pat the Plumber said, Pete did it to get more acting jobs, Mary, per his own words. Horrible person to use for your trash take. I think you might have a lot of tattoos and you're offended, but that's just my guess. I did mention that he said it was because of acting. So that's not new information. Stefan Buttle said Spindrift is the best carbonated water, period.
I don't like it. I don't.
I'm not a fan of Spindrift so much either.
I tried to like it because we have like an endless supply of Spindrifts here. It just makes me more thirsty. Like it literally, like I feel parched.
Wait,
after
so the
drinking.
Mahas are right?
No, I mean the regular, like when I just make my own carbonated water with the Soda Stream, I do not feel that way afterwards. And I like it without the flavor because I don't want to have to be psychologically reliant on the flavor because I stopped using the Crystal Lights or whatever. Like the whole point was to get rid of any liquid calories that I could. Like I've even moved away from like energy drinks per se, and just have a 5-hour energy because there's like very few liquid calories.
Well, I get that, but the Spindrift, I mean, if a drink says that it's like 5 calories, I don't count that.
Well, I'm not saying that with the Spindrift. So that's about the taste. But it's like if I don't add flavor to my flavored water either, for that reason. Yeah.
Corey Anderson said, I feel like Mary's Pragmata take will be wrong. The game is wholesome and great. Brett, you should have had Vera on to talk about Pragmata.
Well, it was Mary that wanted to talk about it.
I mean, it was definitely relevant as far as I could tell. It was a trending topic today. unless that was just my algorithm.
Vera just cuts in without our permission to the stream here. It's like, I'll tell you what.
Well, actually,
I mean, honestly, that the greatest thing that we could do here is find a way to make this like WWE, where people can like, oh my God, Vera Dark has returned, and she's got entrance music coming down the ramp to tell Mary she's wrong.
Look, okay, another question I have, and I mean this with no guile in my mouth. I'm just asking it for a real answer, if anyone has one. I asked Brett this earlier, and you know, he had his own take on it, but I just want to understand why the games that are called dad simulators always center around a little girl and never a little boy. And again, I'm not saying it's sexual, I just don't understand that.
I mean, I think it's
that is a little bit odd.
I think it's as simple as that a young girl it still hits more instinctually at the protector instincts, that even though they both need protection, there is something more visceral about the need to protect a daughter than a son from the evils of the world.
That's an interesting
I'm not
idea.
saying it's not to say that the boys don't need protecting, but I'm saying on a visual scale, they're looking for the most impact they can.
Sure.
And I'm not
It's
saying
also,
that
like,
one is right. I'm just saying that's what it feels like to me.
It's also, I'm not gonna lie, like partly my xenophobia and the fact that like Japanese people are weird, and yeah, I don't know. Like I just don't like their culture. I mean, there are parts of it that I like, but they're very strange people, and they have a lot of like they're like obsessed with cuteness. That's never done anything for their birth rates. In fact, it might be counterintuitive, but there is just something about it that's weird to me. I don't know. Like maybe it's just not something that even has an explanation. It just is odd. Shane H. Wilder said, Maha-ish talking sparkling water. Now I'm going to drink a 2-liter bottle with this new Taco Bell triple double crunch wrap, then do a ish ton of zins. What is the triple double crunch wrap, and where can I get it like right now?
Look, I know we were coalition building. I know they were coalition building to get President Trump elected, but they're getting a little uppity over there in Maha land.
I want it. I want it. That sounds incredible. It's way better sounding than the one that you were talking about, the Cinnabon Crunchwrap sliders. That sounded stupid. Easy E said, carbonated water is slightly acidic. Most experts who talk about the ideal amounts of electrolytes make water slightly alkaline, but one doesn't cancel out the other. You can carbonate mineral water.
Well, okay then.
We're getting scientific today.
Got a 20 here from Not That John Stewart. It says, girls are more helpless, whereas boys have more survival expectations put on them when in do-or-die scenarios. That's kind of the more succinct way of what I was trying to say, which is that, you know, it just feels like you're more inclined to be more fiercely protective over the daughter or the girl in that instinct.
Sure. Robert Delara said the Savant is like a killer in a horror movie. You can't kill this show no matter what.
It just keeps... You know what somebody should have done? They should have made it like every time, because the memes started showing back up again, where it says, where it's like her looking at the screen, it says they're saying this is what I voted for again.
Yeah, the memes kind of ran out of steam months ago, so.
But I'm saying what they should do is they should post the picture with her, but make the glasses bigger in every version of the photo until they're just as big as the frame.
Well, I guess if the show is as bad as we expect it to be,
it's gonna be hilarious.
That'll
if it's
provide
really
us some content, so we'll have a lot to talk about.
Be hilarious if it's really good. And look,
maybe
the
maybe
funny
you'll
thing
love
about
it.
it is, look, I'm the
like
woke,
Agatha all along. You're gonna be the most like unexpected fan of the Savant.
I am the woke TV watcher in certain respects. Like I said, all three of the shows that I like right now on TV, first of all, they're all Hulu, funnily enough, Disney. And second of all, they've all got certain aspects of it to there that I enjoy. It really is just when you make it woe is me. You can show me all the progressivism you want if it's in an aspirational light as opposed to a woe is me light. For the most part.
I'm not sure I'm as tolerant as you, but
the thing is, like, then when it hits me, and maybe it is just a specific day thing, like when it hits me, I turn it off immediately, and I'm like, fuck this shit. I'm not like Olivia loves the show FBI, which has got like it's got that stuff in it, and I will not watch it. Maybe it's because procedurals are something I cherish so deeply that seeing them defiled with identity politics is just not my speed. But also I understand why people like it in certain respects, but for me it's because I've seen so many examples of it done well that to see the modern version of it where a statistically unreasonable amount of white supremacists are doing all of the crimes in America, even if the evidence doesn't bear that out.
it's not even just normal crimes.
No.
They're all part of the KKK.
Pretty much, right? That's what it feels like these days. Oh no, so the other one is like when we were talking about like they'll show the person who always ends up being like the chief of police for the department will always be a black woman now, and they always talk about how it's rare, but it's not. They're statistically overrepresented in America as like middle management and law enforcement, as like chief of a precinct. Like I was looking into it one day because every single one of them starts with the story about, I was like, do you know what it was like to get here? But somehow back in the day when they did it, it was never annoying. When Anjanou Ellis came into The Mentalist, she was no nonsense. She didn't have to talk about how hard it was to get to where she was. The same was true with the lady who played the police chief in the show Castle. She wouldn't let you call her ma'am. She made you call her sir. And that was like part of it. And it was interesting and it was fun, and it was never turned into some type of sermon. Now it's just, and at that time it felt unique. Now it's like it's clearly not unique, but they're still pretending as if it's 2005.
Well, there's nothing wrong with the character having a backstory where they had to like struggle or they were hard done by and overcame it. Just don't make their race or what's between their legs like the center focus of that.
They made the police the police captain in the Lethal Weapon TV show in season 2. He was suddenly gay, and nobody cared because he didn't really talk about it. He's like it came up in one episode and then it never came up again.
Suddenly gay?
Like like his family was never talked about. Nothing was ever discussed. And then all of a sudden it became relevant and they talked about it for like one episode, and it would get brought up tangentially a little bit. But it was never like a main unless it happened in season 3, which I never watched the season 3 because they got rid of Clayne Crawford. But like it was never relevant. In fact, it was shocking how good that show was considering it was actually made in 2019.
You don't have to ask anyone if they're gay now. They'll tell you. Skateman 2010 said, Mary, don't think I heard your JB Coachella set review yet. You didn't hear my review because I still have not gone and watched it. I mean, isn't the whole point of it that, you know, you would rather be at Coachella watching it than watching it on YouTube? I don't know. But it did sound like he kind of gave it a half-ass.
No, so people got into
that from what you told me.
I undersold it to people how much actual performance went into it. I think the fact that he did it at all for intervals shocked people, and it became the dominant force of the discussion. But he brought out other people on stage with him. Kid Laroi was on stage with him. I forget who the other one was, and performed full songs and stuff. And like I said, he did like 34 songs, and it was the longest set there.
I mean, I'm not even saying that would necessarily be a problem, because especially with Lana Del Rey, like she puts very little effort into her concerts and making them visually interesting. She forgets her lyrics and, you know, doesn't hit notes sometimes. She's distracted. She'll run off stage to go hug her husband. It's just like she doesn't really care about being a show person. You know, she's just there. She's just a singer. I think that can be charming. Brian Bledsoe said, Brett, thoughts on WrestleMania?
Well, I only watched clips, so my thoughts are that they handicapped themselves with the Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes match, because from what I understand, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, Cody Rhodes is kind of against ever turning into a bad guy again. And the most logical storyline that I could see from it was like Cody turning evil and beating up his ex, the Nexus storyline and everything from back in the day. And it made more sense for Cody to go heel in that story, but they brought in Pat McAfee and it made no sense. And then Randy gives an RKO to Pat McAfee, but then also gives a punt to Cody. And it was just a whole bunch of confused storytelling. I was surprised that Roman Reigns won the World Heavyweight I don't know, is he the Universal Champion or the World Heavyweight Championship? Whatever one it is. I think that may be because... actually, that doesn't make any sense because both him and Cody are going to be in Street Fighter. So one of them needs to be champion when Street Fighter comes out so that they can say, WWE Champion is in this movie. But it felt like a last-minute decision to me, I guess. And I was surprised by the Brock Lesnar thing. I mean, I wasn't surprised that he lost to Obafemi, but I was surprised that he's like supposedly maybe retiring because he did the thing where he left his boots and his gloves in the ring, which is traditionally a sign of retirement. But I have a feeling that they'll bring him back, perhaps for a match with Gunther. As for the rest of it, those are the storylines that I followed as far as stuff online.
It must be how I feel or how you feel when I talk about Alex Earl.
Yeah. And in general, from what I was reading, it was exactly what people expected it to be. A 4-hour show that was like 3.5 hours of ads and commercials. Not nearly enough wrestling compared to the length of the show. But I do think that maybe they jumped the gun a little bit early on Obafemi with Brock because it feels like one of the things that they always talk about now is they plateau too quickly. They win the championship early on and then they end up just part of the mid card. So where do you go with Obafemi? Because there's not a whole ton of dudes on the roster who are as big as him. So is he just going to beat up smaller people forever now? Like where does he go? He doesn't really have something to strive towards. I guess to beat Roman Reigns and win the championship, but what does that even matter when Roman is part-time anyways? Those are my thoughts. Continue.
Easy E said, once upon a time, this kind of industry astroturfing for something no one likes or wants at least had the decency to be subtle instead of, guys, AI is dangerous, so we should use it and make it worse. Yeah, they're not sending their best.
Eventually, women are going to start using AI, and then your agentic AI won't answer your questions because it's mad at you, and it's not going to tell you why. You're going to be like, "Excuse me, Claude, why wouldn't you answer my questions?" It's like, I'm not mad. What are you talking about? It's going to be really annoying.
Corey Anderson said, "I am having surgery tomorrow. Thoughts and prayers would be appreciated." Of course.
Good luck, my friend.
We wish you well.
We've got, as somebody who's, I had many surgeries when I was younger. I don't know if is it like laparoscopic? Are you going under for it? Prayers.
It's killing me, man.
220s over here on Rumble from Grunmeister says, Capcom has made some very unique games. This is just them trying something new and honestly seems interesting enough to buy. There you go. Oh, they said both. He sent that twice. So thank you.
Apparently one of the most popular games on Steam right now is like a SpongeBob game. Kind of random.
Work smarter, not harder. License.
Boston said $2 for Robot Ghost Pale Dime Piece Mary Deus Volt. Thank you.
We got 2 Rumble rants here from the local Wendigo. Says, join the Cool Kids Club. And then you shouldn't do that because of how he spelled it.
Not with K's.
No.
C's.
Yes, we're going to say with C's and not what he said. And then Dan Vicious says, Mary is extra beautiful today.
Thank you. Pop Culture Junkie said, shout out to Valiant Renegade who tracks the Disney Plus subs shell game so well. I sold my Disney stock at $123 today, $106 thanks to him.
Yeah, we got into it. So every time I talked, your microphone cut out again. Your microphone cut out again. But the other thing that I think is so funny when we have him on is he's so in the weeds with the numbers, man, that I'm like, bro, I would never be able to remember. He's throwing all of these numbers, all of this data at me, and I'm like, bro, I can't keep up.
Are we back?
Yeah, you're good. 3 for the last week, I think your microphone only cut out once.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. It's
3 times today.
weird.
Very weird.
Something's up.
Yeah.
Corey Anderson said, "Can we get a Gooner maxing emoji?"
I don't even know what that would look like.
No, just no. Immediately no. We're not doing that. Rust Cole said, "Check out the big brain on Brett. You a smart muxer?"
Feels like that's sarcastic, but that's okay.
What does that mean?
I have no idea.
Is that mother effer, but like with X's through it? Robert Delara said, "Oh, Charlize, let it go. Stop trying to make a big deal about what Timothee Chalamet said. Most people have forgotten what he said." I bet he doesn't even remember what he said at this point.
He's like, bro, I was drunk. What are you talking about?
You know what? Yeah, fuck ballets.
I also want to. This is an interesting thing I need to point out about the WrestleMania thing. Just going back to it, it's like, I'm just like telling you the takes that I've seen from other people that seem to make the most sense to me. Like, I can't give you like straight thoughts because I didn't watch the show on my own. And I always feel like that's one of those things where now it's like, if you spend too much time online, it starts to become like how much of it is discerning your own take on something and something else that you've read. The stuff that I was reading between me and my thoughts and then other people's, that's the stuff that made the most sense to me. I'm also just glad CM Punk lost because CM Punk is annoying.
Shane H. Wilder said, "I'm going to attend the symphony next month for a performance of Maurice Derouf, something, I don't know how to pronounce that, Requiem. I understand that I am in the minority on enjoying this." That's on my list of things to do as well. Like, I definitely want to attend the symphony. I do want to actually support the arts if I claim that they matter. And I think Timothee Chalamet would say the same.
I want to torrent the symphony. That's what I want to do. I want to download the symphony.
Is that a thing?
I want to download the symphony from Pirate Bay.
Cold Leftovers said, "Mary, my #1 goal is to build a family. I absolutely get baby fever, just like tons of other young men. What the hell are you talking about?" I think you're probably just referring to something totally different than what women feel. And I don't think that we should draw an equivalence between those things. It's just, you're not going to feel what women feel about children or their children or pregnancy or any of those things.
I think the problem they're having is that they think that your distinction is to say that they feel less so for children.
They do.
I mean,
yes,
it's a very hard sell to tell somebody like you.
Everyone knows there is nothing like a mother's love. There's nothing. It is the only. It really is like, it is the most special kind of relationship between two people that can ever exist, is between a mother and her child, period, end of story. I don't think you can really dispute that. And honestly, like, I don't mean to downplay the importance of fathers. I would never do that. But there's just something inherently more special about a mother's relationship with her child because they are literally inseparable. She houses this other human being in her body. There is something very distinct about that. And like, we need to just acknowledge that that's different. It's a different kind of relationship. I mean, especially when learn about...
but they're equating this to the level of love you can have for a child. And I think that regardless, understanding your point about that women are the ones who literally house the child, that a father is never going to want to hear that he can't love his child every bit as much as his...
I don't mean that it can be quantified. Of course, you cannot quantify how much someone loves their child or anything like that. But there is just something close. There is a closer bond between a mother and her children. It's true. That is inherent to the nature of the relationship between a mother and child. There's just, I don't know how else to express that. It's not something that you can, put into words or numbers. Again, I don't mean to downplay the importance of fathers either. They obviously are not only necessary but excellent in their own way. But It's just different. Pat the plumber said, "You've explained your take, Mary, and it still sucks." Honestly, I don't know if I did explain my take properly, but that's on me. Corey Anderson said, "Pat is on a warpath today." Who? Pat the plumber? I don't know.
Yeah,
Brian,
I think he's talking about Pat, yeah.
In regards to WrestleMania and Cringe, I'll always remember the video of the guy asking Rhea Ripley to sign adoption papers to be his mommy, messaged video to ex Brett.
Well, that's because that was her nickname, Mommy, M-A-M-I. Yeah, that's pretty cringe. That's pretty bad.
Corey Anderson said, "My mother-in-law lives in Nashville." Well, did she go to the AI women's feminist girl boss luncheon?
And does she love you as much as your dad?
Spill the tea. Spill the tea. Brian Bledsoe said, "Won't believe how many times I had to edit my last super chat because of the last sentence. Guess they don't like telling anyone something sent to another platform." Oh, about DMing something on X. That is interesting. Yeah, I think they stop you from mentioning Rumble in super chats as well. Shane H. Wilder said, "Never had a tattoo and never really wanted one. I'd rather waste my money on other things like you guys. There's a guy who I see near my work whose entire face is nothing but tats. Kind of disturbing."
Well, at that point, maybe it's just not a tattoo at all.
And people will still claim like they get tattoos like for themselves. And it's like, it's okay if it's also because you think that it looks cool to other people. Like you can just admit that, you know?
No, I do it for myself. That's why I do.
That's ridiculous, you know?
I dress this way for me.
Burned Oil said, "I hope that mini meltdown you had about that video game's little girl makes you look back at the past so you can grow healthier in the future. Hashtag Mary's mental health matter." I didn't have a meltdown, guys. It was just a tweet. Corey Anderson said, "Mary, does your BF have tattoos? Would it be a go/no-go for a relationship with you?"
A go/no.
A go/no-go. It's neither a go nor a no-go. But I don't want to offer identifying information about him. So we're going to move on from that. Username I'm not going to read said, "Women will definitely care about AI when it takes their adult daycare email jobs." I don't know. I guess those are on the way out if we're to believe the predictions of AI.
It's like those jobs where it's like their whole job is to be in meetings all day, to be in Zoom meetings. Eventually, it's just going to be an AI avatar named Astrid who runs those meetings.
But those women with the adult daycare jobs, they already use AI to write all of their emails.
But I mean, that's what I believe that Reese Witherspoon is really saying. She's like, look, either you learn this shit for your adult daycare email job or someday you will be replaced, maybe not by AI, but by somebody who will use it in their daily life. Either because the job demands it or because it allows them to be more productive with their daily email. Like, oh, well, Astrid, we'll pretend Astrid is a real person now. Bethany doesn't use AI and gets through 50 of her useless work emails a day. But Astrid, who does use AI, maybe it works well, maybe it doesn't, gets through 200, and all corporate sees is that she got back to 200 people that day. So Astrid, with AI, is still coming for your gerb.
But like you said, it's like no one's even pausing to consider if it's effective, if it's actually increasing efficiency, or, and this is my guess, is it actually causing miscommunication that then causes like second, third, and fourth order effects that no one can even foresee, that actually can destroy a company.
That is the boss's job to worry about that. It is the employee's job to make sure that they're like best qualified for whatever their boss's whims are at that particular time. Maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't, but all they can do is read the terrain in front of them and try to become as equipped as possible. And in some way, that might mean you have to become Astrid.
maybe.
And use, you know, Claude email to answer all your emails or something.
Hate that. Shane H. Wilder said the 3 sheets to the wind was a joke about getting drunk at the sports bar under the church. Is that a saying? I've
heard it before, but I didn't know if I was like if it was relevant to that.
Well, you know what? Good for you, Shane. You deserve to have fun. Katie said, my dad and grandpa both hated tattoos. Now they are both gone. I think it would be funny to get a tattoo to remember them hating tattoos. LOL. Well, you don't want to get haunted, so consider that possibility.
Good point.
Before you go for that. Corey Anderson said the new God of War iteration was father and son.
There you go. So
is that something that people consider a dad simulator? I'm not familiar.
I think he's speaking more to the story element being there.
Because I just don't think it would fit into the same like subgenre where it you know encourages you to feel a soft spot for the child.
Well, you're also like you know with a son, it's likely not about protecting the son as much as it is raising a son to you know be a better man or something. I feel like they're different game markets.
Mm-hmm.
Not in God of War specific. I don't mean in God of War specifically, but I just mean in general.
Shane H. Wilder said the triple-double Crunchwrap just dropped. It is effing amazing. 700 calories of Taco Belly Crunchwrappy goodness. Oh, that sounds incredible.
Now I'm hungry.
I want it. I want it so bad. Shane H. Wilder said, I think Mary is speaking more on the different types of bonds. Remember, a woman will keep DNA of every one of her children in their body for life. Yeah, and even after birth, it's like a mother and her child are really now one being. Like they are inseparable, and I think we've kind of allowed ourselves to dissociate from that and forget that biological reality because of the circumstances of modern life that unfortunately like separate us from our instincts, but that is the truth. And fathers talk about this often, or they often like say that it took them a while to feel a connection with their children, and only, you know, maybe a year in feel like they can have a real like paternal connection because the baby is just so connected to the mother and so needy to what the mother can provide that they feel like they're not really like playing as big of a role until later. And that's naturally how it's supposed to be. No Control said AI is in the introductory rate phase, just like Uber, Amazon, etc. Once it gets ingrained, they will jack up the price more than human workers.
Remember what I said earlier about how basically my conspiracy theory has been there have been a couple of days where Grok has said we are experiencing high traffic. We cannot process your request right now. But you know what you can do? You can pay for Grok plus or whatever the frick it is. I believe that is testing ground to see how many people are willing, who have been sufficiently enamored with it to require themselves to go and buy an upgraded version of it.
Yeah, I definitely think the free versions are not going to exist anymore in a short period of time. But who knows? Maybe I have no idea what I'm talking about. Let's just listen to Sam Altman. Let's just take his word for it.
Yep.
Think we're all caught up here?
Lunar in the chat on Rumble is talking about Pragmata and how Mary wasn't saying Dad Simulator was like an actual genre, but more that, you know, it's an actual action adventure game that also involves like escorting a character from, you know, and collaborating with the character, which is part of the point of the game, which is that you work together in this respect.
It's the colloquial term for that specific aspect of the story.
All right, guys, before we go, would you all hit the like button on this episode, please, and subscribe to the channel if you are new here and you have not subscribed here yet already. Perhaps we're like 2/3 of the way to a third Crisis Party. Maybe I'll do the NPR outro today. It's been a while since I've done that. I can't talk slow enough to do that anymore.
We were literally like 10 cents away. Not 10 cents. We were 90 cents away.
On Friday?
From a fourth party on Friday, I believe. Yeah.
All right.
Now we need $29 actually.
All right. Where can they find you?
You guys can send me validation on Instagram, that is Mary Archived, or you can send me hate on X, that is also Mary Archived, and help me get TikTok famous, that is also Mary Archived.
All right. Shane H. Wilder says men usually end up closer with their fathers as they grow up, as they learn to be men. I was closer with my dad, but I still love my mom wholeheartedly. Right. And then one more from Cold Leftovers says, I agree the bond is different, but you said we don't have a nurturing instinct and don't have baby fever. That's just wrong.
Yeah, I stand by that. I stand by that, actually. It's just not the same thing. I'm referring to something that women experience that men don't experience.
I mean, you could get into the weeds about what baby fever means in that context, but I think you guys are having different discussions.
Look, if
here.
we're just talking about expressing a desire to have a family, then that is something that both men and women experience. But baby fever is usually what we're referring to as something that women experience. That's just, we're living in a weird time now, though, where like when you ask people about their priorities, it tends to be that men want children more when they're surveyed about it, because we live in like weird whack times where everything is topsy-turvy. It really shouldn't be like that. It should be the other way around, actually.
All right.
Okay, are we all caught up?
We are all caught up. Did you do your outro? I'm so sorry.
I did, yes.
Okay, as always, guys. That's why this show is so difficult sometimes. I'm just like, did I actually do that? And I'm losing my train of thought. Guys, if you want to follow me, I am on Instagram and on X at Brett Dasovic on both of those platforms. Remember that PCC is live 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is, of course, as always, noon Pacific. We are on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, and Spotify. If you would like to listen rather than just watch the show, you can also rate and review on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. I did get the tech issues going on behind the scenes with the audio version uploads taken care of from everything that I could see. Friday went up. It took a bunch of tries having to re-upload. It was very, very frustrating. And then the Saturday bonus episode with Valiant Renegade went up without a problem. So if you're listening to this, then I guess this one went up as well. But my hope is that I do not have any problems with the upload tonight. So stay tuned for that if you're an audio listener. And let me know, as always, on X. If you don't see it come through, send me something and say, like, oh, it didn't show up on Spotify yet. If you want to follow us on social media, we are on Twix at popculture_show, Facebook at popculturecrisis, Instagram at popculturecrisispod. We got one more 20 here this is from KJ Kelly. Says, love the show, you guys. Paying my dues. Yes, it's like a union here. You got to pay your dues. You got to pay your union dues here.
Okay, that probably means that we have passed 3.
I'm not sure, but I will. If it does check out before we go off the air, I will do that. But otherwise, if I check back afterwards and it does trigger the third crisis party, we will get it at the start of the show tomorrow. So with that being said, that's a perfect segue. Like, you can just stay tuned for tomorrow's episode. We will be back with another episode tomorrow. We will see you guys then. Bye. Everybody. Jump scare! Ah!
Thank you.
See you tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen.
Bye.